All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started today. It's been a minute since I have ever live streamed, but we are going to go ahead and get started with today's live stream. We're talking about the current bull market strategy that is essentially taking effect. We're talking about my current bull market strategy right now. We're going to give the stream a minute to load for everyone. Should be loading momentarily. Let's see. There we go. We are live. Get strategy. Okay. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at kind of my bull market strategy right now. It's kind of crazy. There's three reasons investors typically lose money. We're going to talk about those. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at 63,000. Can you freaking believe that? By the way, if you come in chat, do me a favor. Smash that like button, give me a thumbs up, say hello, let's go. I have not done a live stream in a long time, but it is a good time to get back at it. Looks like we're having an attempt at a tiny pullback, but this is nothing. I wonder, listen, where the market's going to go from here, nobody actually knows, but as investors, we have to be prepared for the ups, we have to be prepared for the downs, and I'm going to talk about my strategy in today's live stream. Now, today we're talking about, this is kind of a 3x3 live stream. So we're going to be talking about the three main reasons most investors lose money. We're going to be talking about three strategies that I have for the bull market and kind of the overarching theme or thesis that I use for the bull market at large. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about three reasons why I believe Bitcoin is going to go much higher. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not financial advice, but I think Bitcoin is going to melt literal faces off. I mean, and if you think about it for a moment, with where Bitcoin is going, I think so many of us are underexposed. You know, people like to talk about altcoins, which altcoin is going to blow up. By the way, let me know, say hello in the chat once you come in. Love to see who's in chat, what's going on. Say hello. Boom, there. Lots of people get excited about which altcoin is going to do what's going to outperform Bitcoin. Listen, if we just come back over here, where we at? Come back over to CoinMarketCap right now. It's kind of crazy if you think about the past 7 days. Like, Bitcoin is just destroying pretty much everything else. Toncoin went up. By the way, I don't know if you guys heard about that. That's kind of crazy with Telegram using Toncoin. SHIB did 27%. Uniswap did 53%, but that's in the past 7 days. And most of you know what that's about. If you don't, this is because Uniswap recently. What's up, Jay? How's it going? This is because Uniswap recently, by the way, this is some crazy news. I think this is good for decentralized finance. So if you don't know about this, let me just say this. Uniswap recently came out and said that they were going to be revamping their governance fee structure. Essentially, if you hold Uniswap tokens, you're going to be earning some of the fees that Uniswap as a protocol earns. And as you can see, they had this huge 50 to 70% jump. It was enormous. I think this is overall good. And the reason I think this is good, in the crypto space, it's interesting to watch how some companies and organizations and protocols respond to potential regulations. You know, a couple of years ago, Uniswap ended up saying that they kind of sort of got forced by the government or pressured by the government to remove mirrored tokenized stock assets off of their decentralized exchange. And this upset a lot of people, including myself, meaning you could trade like tokenized versions of like Tesla stock, for example, through a protocol called Mirror Protocol. And they had to remove some of these tokenized assets because, you know, they were worried about government regulations and government enforcement actions, etc. And so a lot of us got concerned about that. We're like, wait a minute, it's supposed to be decentralized. Although to this day, you can still trade those assets. You just have to know how to interact directly with the smart contract, which with version 3 is impossible pretty much. So I shouldn't say that it's still possible. With version 2, you could still interact with those assets if you know how to interact with the smart contract. But of course, most people don't, right? So as a company, Uniswap, or yeah, I should say company, as a business, Uniswap removed those mirror assets, and that upset a lot of people. And And so I appreciate that, Mind of Tron. Yes, smash that like button. It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute since I've been live. But with the Bitcoin going nuts, I felt like there's some things I needed to talk about. So Uniswap, a lot of people got upset. But then when I see Uniswap coming out with their governance proposal, or I should say coming out suggesting they're going to adjust the governance and how they're doing that, and now they're going to allow people to start to earn fees, this sort of flies in the face of a lot of government regulations. Being able to earn fees, earn yield on your crypto assets is one of my favorite things to do, but it absolutely is going to run into a brick wall with regulators trying to define what is considered a security. Because typically, think about it, in the stock market, when you earn a fee on a stock, it's called a dividend. When you earn profits on a stock, it's called a dividend. So, and typically dividends are, you earn dividends on an underlying asset that is a security, until crypto, where all of a sudden it's gotten really blurry. So it looks like Uniswap could be taking a bold step towards decentralization here. And I think that's good, because some sort of governance, group governance, is what you sort of need to get away from any one country's regulatory body. Meaning they could, let's just say they come out and said, no Americans can use Uniswap, hypothetically, right? They did this with Tornado Cash. Let's just say no Americans can use Uniswap. Well, it doesn't mean anything's going to happen to Uniswap as long as the governance is truly decentralized throughout other parts of the world. Even if no American citizens used Uniswap, it would never actually matter for the actual protocol itself. Of course, decrease the fees and whatnot. That would be it. All right, so let's go back to what I was saying. Everybody's looking for what's going to outperform Bitcoin, but as you can see, almost nothing has outperformed Bitcoin. A couple of random exceptions, but overall, nothing really. Everything's pretty much on par or isn't keeping up with Bitcoin. And that's pretty bonkers bananas. However, this is what's fascinating. I don't think most people own enough Bitcoin is the bottom line. And if you get into Bitcoin, if you're holding Bitcoin or you're trying to collect Bitcoin, you're typically called either a Bitcoin maximalist, or a lot of people who are in crypto tend to think that you're kind of new. They're like, there's so many other things and exciting things than just Bitcoin and just Ethereum. But ladies and gentlemen, until the foreseeable future, Bitcoin and Ethereum is where it's at, based on the market cap alone, based on the track record, the security of it. I mean, nothing else really even comes close. We're looking at Bitcoin, a $1.2 trillion market cap. We're looking at Ethereum, 413 billion. The next closest thing, you can say BNB, but most of us know that BNB isn't probably going to have a place in mass adoption. I mean, it's currently a company-run token, which I like, the Binance Smart Chain, don't get me wrong. But that's at 62 billion. That's a long ways from 412 billion of Ethereum. And then Solana sitting here at 50 billion. XRP at 32 billion. Again, this is a long ways from 1.2 trillion. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these tokens. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I think most people in the decentralized finance space overall tend to be underexposed to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Don't let Bitcoin go to 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 and you don't have as much as you wanted. I think everyone should be DCAing. Now keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen. 3 things that most crypto investors do that cause them to lose money. We'll just say that. We'll go through this one by one. Number 1, most investors are entirely emotional. They do not have an investing plan of any kind, or they have a plan, but they don't stick to it. They let their emotions override their actual plan of what they were trying to do. And when I say a plan, like at what price point do you want to be dollar cost averaging? At what price point do you want to be buying more? You know what's crazy right now is everybody's trying to buy more Bitcoin because it's going up. We're at near all-time highs, and everybody's trying to buy more. That's exactly why it's going up. Look at this extreme greed, the fear and greed index, which I love this index. Theoretically, when the market's moving sideways and it's doing nothing, people will say, yeah, when everybody's buying, you should be selling. But trying to tell people right now, hey, you need to sell some Bitcoin, you need to take some profits. Don't be afraid to take profits. All of a sudden, they're afraid you're fudding. That people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that you think, this could be a good time to take profits, because they want to believe that the euphoria, the drug addiction of the bull market is going to go on forever. And the truth is, it could go on for a long time. We could go straight to 100,000 from here. But the question is, what is your plan? Most people don't have a plan. They just get emotional. Number two reason most people end up losing money in cryptos, because the market never goes as high as most investors expect. And the bull market never lasts as long as most people want. Keep that in mind. Most people expect the market to go incredibly high and higher and higher and higher. And people who are buying now at 62,000 expect to earn a profit, which means they would think that it's going to go to 65,000 and 70,000 and 75,000 and 80,000. So most crypto investors think it's going to go far higher than it does. So with that being said, it's important to understand that the masses are usually wrong when it comes to investing. The masses, this is true, by the way, for crypto YouTube as well. It's a little bit frustrating because I do understand as a content creator how much that you need to put up content that a large audience is going to enjoy watching. And people typically don't want to hear anything that is considered counterintuitive or contradictory to the overall market sentiment. The overall market sentiment right now is that we are in a bull market and you should be buying. That's the overall market sentiment right now. So trying to tell people to do the opposite of the market is not a popular message to get out there. But I think it's unfortunate because I think a lot of people lose credibility when they just jump on the bandwagon of the euphoria that it can go higher, it can go higher, it can go higher. And it can go higher, but there will always be inevitable correction. And the bull market's not going to last as long as we expect. It never, ever does. So you've got to have a plan where you're both benefiting from the upward momentum, but at the same time, you're prepared if the market pulls back. And this is a phrase that I heard a long time ago, and I love it. And it says, as an investor, always try to make investment decisions that allow you to be right, even if you're wrong. So what can I do in this market that says, okay, this is what I think is going to happen. And if this happens, I'm going to be very good. Like my overall investment thesis on the direction of the market was right, and my investments are going to reflect that. But if I think the market's going to go up and it goes down, how can I make certain that A, I don't get hit too much, and that I still benefit from the pullback in the market? And I will admit, that's challenging. That is absolutely challenging. But it's not impossible, especially, listen, I believe we are going to have some pullback. We have had one in the past hour. That's not a big deal, but I believe we could see some significant pullback at some point for sure. Anytime the market pumps hard, it pulls back. Not equally as hard, but there's always a pullback. We've looked in the past 7 days, we've been up 15% in 7 days, 16%. At one point, it said 20%. So I guess by that logic, we're back almost 4%. There, you can see it right there. Now, how far back are we going to come? Are we going to lose all of this? Maybe not. I mean, if you watch crypto YouTube and crypto Twitter right now, 80% of people are talking about how the Bitcoin ETF is going to cause the market to go through the roof, and we're never going to see the substantial pullbacks we've seen in the past. Maybe, maybe not. That might be most biased crypto investors' hope, but that's not a guarantee. So you have to be careful in this market. Again, how can you be right even if you're wrong? By the way, if you're joining us, do me a favor. If you haven't done so already, smash that like button. Okay, so number 3, because most investors this is what most investors do that cause them to lose money, and it's because they're emotional, because they end up following the masses, because humans have this thing of wanting to conform with what other people think and conform with other people's emotions. So here's what happens. They invariably end up buying the top and selling the bottom. A buddy of mine messaged me this morning. He said, man, I've got to get my Bitcoin positions right. And I told him, he said, we're running out of time. And I said, listen, you could be right, but I want to ask yourself, why were you not saying that when Bitcoin was down to 20,000? At 20,000, very few people are like, man, I got to buy more. I got to buy more. I got to buy more. Because it's just human nature. Psychologically, we tend to believe that the current trend is going to be the future trend for the foreseeable future. So that is just human nature. So what ends up happening is the higher it goes, we finally get enough confirmation in the direction we decide to buy. And eventually we get squeezed, the market turns against us, and we end up holding a losing position. Likewise, in the bear market, when the market's dropping, we think that it's going to keep going down. All of us wish we would have, got so much more Bitcoin at, 20,000 and below. All of us wish that. But we didn't. And many of us weren't even actively buying hard at those levels because, we were afraid, it's going to keep going lower. It's going to keep going lower. So understanding that most investors lose money, how in the world can you prevent yourself from losing money? How can you be right even if you're wrong? How can you manage uncertainty of the direction of the market but not miss out on this thing? I think ultimately you have to ask yourself, what is the underlying thesis and what you believe? What is your overarching belief above all else for your crypto portfolio? Now, we're assuming your crypto portfolio is some position of the overall portfolio. So like for example, in my world, my belief, I genuinely believe, and towards the end of the live stream, I'm going to end it with how I think this can happen or how I think it will happen. But I believe that Bitcoin's going to go above 500,000 eventually, probably over $1 million eventually. I absolutely believe that. And I believe it's probably going to go over $1 million now because 2 years ago I was saying it was going to go to $1 million in today's money eventually. Now, when is that eventually? Sometime within the next 5 to 10 to 25 years. I genuinely believe that. That is my underlying belief. Now, I may be proven wrong, but I'm biased. I'm a cryptocurrency YouTuber. I'm not a financial advisor. I believe in this space wholeheartedly. With that being said, I'm not too stressed out if we see major pullbacks. What most people don't understand, two things you need to know about the market, and again, this affects what I'm doing with my own portfolio. Two things most people don't understand about the market. First thing is this. The Bitcoin price goes down about 85% every 4 years. What they don't realize, though, is in a bull market phase, if you go look back at the last bull market, we had ended up having most pullbacks were less than 20%. I'll put it that way. Most of the time, the market pulled back less than 20%. So, with that being said, that can give you some incredible information, assuming that we continue in that cycle. Now, here's what a lot of people are going to tell you. A lot of people are going to say, and listen, you may disagree with this. It's okay. I expect you to disagree with some of this. We're all individual investors. But people are going to say, oh, the Bitcoin ETF's here. We're not going to see those 80% pullbacks anymore. We're not going to see that anymore. Big money's here. Big money finance is here. The more money comes in, the less volatile it will become. We're never going to see that again. And they could be right. They could be right. But keep in mind, I was here investing when the all-time high was like 20,000 and people were saying that, we were never going to go back down to 5,000. I was here investing when the all-time high hit 69 and people said we would never again see Bitcoin prices below 35,000. And we saw them go much, much lower. So I'm not going to buy that we're not going to see those big swings in Bitcoin price for a couple of reasons. First of all, it needs to get proven to me inside of a market cycle first. We need to wait between the halving coming up and the next halving, that middle phase there, when we tend to get a big pullback in crypto. I personally want to see how low we go between the halvings. If we only pull back by 50%, that's fine. If we pull back by 30%, that's going to be incredible if that happens. I don't mind the pullback. I always want more. And I don't want more at today's prices. I want more at the lower prices. So it doesn't, again, be right if you're wrong. It doesn't bother me, by the way, if the market pulls back. This is where people get kind of in their head. So if it pulls back, great. I'm expecting it to pull back. That way, when I'm making dollar call, I make regular purchases into Bitcoin. No matter if the market goes up, the market goes down, I dollar cost average all the time. And when you're dollar cost averaging, I don't worry about the fact that I'm putting in a little bit of money this month and we're near all-time highs. When we break all-time highs, my dollar cost average part of my portfolio, I'm not going to worry about that. That's why it's called dollar cost average. I put in when the price is high. I put in when the price is low. It's dollar cost average. I'm okay with that. That's a good thing. I don't stress about it. So here's my strategy going forward, because at the same time, you've got to understand how to take profits. You cannot be afraid to take profits in this type of market, particularly in some of your altcoin positions. But even in Bitcoin, even in Ethereum. The exception to the rule is your long-term HODL. So I'm always trying to add to my cold wallet of Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm always trying to add to that. I have no expectation of selling that until we hit, mass adoption or $1 million Bitcoin, period. Or until something else rivals it. Nothing else is even close to rival Bitcoin, the market cap, the overall market adoption. But otherwise, I'm planning to hold it until. Now, a huge portion of my portfolio is in altcoins. Many of you know that I love like passive income plays right here, 6 free streams of crypto income. I guess I could have put that in the chat. Follow my copy trading journey. This is all about, earning different types of passive income. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the HODL wallet. Number one thing I'm going to always do is DCA, dollar cost average, dollar cost average. That doesn't stop ever. I'm always dollar cost averaging, adding to my cold wallet. The biggest mistake, I have been in this since 2000. I made my first investment, I think in 2016. And it sort of hurts my feelings how many guys I have seen sell. Oh, well, I had this bill coming up, I had to sell. If you need the money for the bill, man, you probably should never went into crypto. You cannot sell where this is going. Like you've got to have a long-term HODL strategy that no matter what, and maybe it needs to be $25 a month. Maybe it needs to be some small number that you can live with. I mean, those of, right, these little free streams of income here, I probably earn between, depending on the month, depending on what's going on, $5 to $25 a month on these little free streams. It cost me nothing. That was $5 to $25 a year ago, 2 years ago. They pay out in crypto. Today, that crypto is probably at $15 to $45. It's just totally free. I just stack that. That's part of my DCA strategy for most of them that pay out in Bitcoin or comparable cryptocurrency. I just stack it, a lot of it. And then I DCA on top of that. I'm not going to sell that to pay a bill under any circumstances at all, ever. Number one thing is you got to have a solid DCA plan. You got to be committed to the DCA plan. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you believe mass adoption is coming, then these prices have to go significantly higher, at least a factor of 10. Imagine every dollar you invest today could be worth 10 times more in the future, maybe 20 times more in the future. And if we had a crystal ball, we would literally, outside of our living expenses and our vacation, we would take all of our savings and dump it over here. We don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know when that's going to happen. So you can't do that. So you have the dollar cost average. Okay, number one, have a solid dollar cost average strategy. Listen, if you agree with me or disagree, let me know in the chat. And smash that like button, by the way, whether you agree or disagree. I'm giving it to you. I'm being honest. You don't have to like it. I'm just being honest. So here's number two strategy that I'm doing in this market outside of dollar cost average is I am taking some profits. And I'll explain specifically how I'm taking profits in a moment, but I am taking some actual profits. You have to be taking profits when you get near all-time highs. You have to be taking some profits when you get near all-time highs. Again, particularly in your altcoins. Why? Because the market's going to pull back at some point somewhere. We're going to have a significant pullback. Maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 80%. But when it pulls back, you want to be able to buy more with those US dollar profits. That's how you get ahead of the game. Listen, if you're like me, you feel like even if you got in, a lot of you got in after 2020, but even if you got in after 2017, 2016, like I did, or 2015, or even if you got in 2008, which is in the early days, many of us feel like either we're still behind on where we want to be, or we got to the party a little bit late. You have to make up ground. The way you make up ground is take profits in bull market so you can come back in the bear market. But the key to taking profit is not taking profit and withdrawing it. Listen, when I pull funds into crypto, they don't leave crypto, ladies and gentlemen. Do you hear me? They don't leave crypto except when I have to pay taxes. Sometimes they leave crypto to pay taxes. But outside of that, my funds do not leave crypto. Can I say that again? My funds do not leave crypto. Listen, I learned this from my grandfather many years ago. Many years ago, my grandfather, long before crypto, I was just a kid and I heard this happen. My grandfather was not a rich man at all, far from it, extraordinarily poor. I grew up without a whole lot, and he made a good income in his life, but he spent most of it. But he always would talk about the stock market, and there's one stock in particular he talked about nonstop. He watched Walmart become a publicly traded company, and he followed that stock till the day he died. And he always used to say, I wish I would have invested in Walmart when. I wish I would have invested in Walmart when. I wish I would have invested in Walmart when. He got one of his daughters to buy into Walmart. She actually worked for the company and she got stock options. And he told her, hold on to those stock options, don't sell them. Hold on to those stock options, don't sell them. Unfortunately for him, he never got Walmart. Fortunately for her, she did get stock options in Walmart stock way back when. Also, unfortunately for her, she sold because she needed to pay bills, because she wanted to take some vacation. She sold. That was my aunt. My aunt unfortunately passed away several years ago, but she passed away a very broke woman financially. But her stock options today would have been worth millions of dollars. Millions of dollars, ladies and gentlemen. And I've heard her recount that story so many times. And I know I'm investing in the crypto space with people that may one day be saying that very same thing. So don't be afraid to take profits. We want to buy back in at some point in the future. And I'll talk about my actual profit taking strategy in a moment here as well. Number 3, once you take profits, you want to hold that in USD value, meaning hold it in USDT, hold it in USDC, hold it in USDL, whatever. Hold it in some sort of USD value. And you want to keep it, and again, don't withdraw it, just keep it. And you want to be ready to start buying back on the pullback. Now, for me personally, I know Bitcoin has gone down 80% or more every 4 years. I know, well, about every 3 years. I know that. And we've hit new all-time highs roughly every 4 years or so. I know that. I don't know that we'll go back to an 80% pullback. But I do believe we'll go deeper than just 20%. Personally, I do think we'll have at least a 20% plus pullback in a bear market. So for me, I'm going to hold my USD value until we get to about a 50% pullback from whatever the current all-time high will be. And that includes right now. We're close enough to all-time high for me. I'm starting to take some USD profit and just stack it. And I'm going to continue to hold that again until we see about a 50% pullback from where we're at right now. That means I'm going to be stacking some USD value because I'm earning passive income in cryptocurrency, passive income in Bitcoin. I'll be stacking USD value all the way through whatever this bull market is going to be. So think about that. And you're thinking, but wealth, if you're stacking USD value, you're missing out on the run up. No, I'm not. Remember, I still have a HODL wallet. Be right even if you're wrong. If we don't see a 50% pullback, I'm okay. I'm holding USD value. It's not the end of the world. And the best part is, most of it I've earned for free because it's been some sort of dividend or some sort of passive income in the cryptocurrency space. I have not brought fresh fiat into crypto in years and years. I don't need to because I'm earning passive crypto income. The only difference is when we're in a bull market, I'm selling that for USD value, and I'm not holding it in Bitcoin or Ethereum or some other altcoin. I'm selling it for USD value, and I'm holding on to it that passively. I'm holding on through a significant portion of that all the way through the bull market. When we start seeing those pullbacks, then I'm going to start slowly dollar cost averaging with that stack in. When we get to 50%, we may go lower than 50%. I know that, but that's when I want to be buying. And I'll be making purchases on a monthly basis. And hopefully there'll be significant purchases that I'll be making on a monthly basis. So the idea for me is dollar cost average into Bitcoin and Ethereum, continue doing that no matter what. Take some of my profit, my passive profits. Now, how I'm doing that specifically, so many of you know, you follow me, you know that I invest in crypto casinos. They're paying really well right now because their dividend pools are going up because they hold a significant amount of cryptocurrency in their dividend pools. And they're going up. So we're earning real yield from the profits of those casinos, right? They're paying 30, 40%. Some of them are paying in the 20%. There's like 3 that I'm in altogether. and well, I've been more than that, but 3 are doing really good. They've been doing good for a long time. And, I'm going to be taking a significant portion, about 50% of that, into USD value. The other 50%, primarily Bitcoin, Ethereum, stuff like that. That's where I'm at on that. Now, the stable coin that I'm going into, of course, I always spread my risk around stable coin, USDT, USDC, and I haven't talked about this on my channel much, but I am loving what's going on over here on Liquid Loans. Many of you know that I've been a part of the Pulse Chain community off and on. I've been paying attention for a long time, but this is one of my favorite protocols, and I'm going to explain why. It's this right here. Everybody's into this protocol because they love the idea of buying their Pulse, borrowing against their Pulse, and getting some USDL and using that USDL to earn more Pulse, yada, yada, yada. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's probably a great strategy. What I'm most excited about this protocol is not taking an interest-free loan. Like, that's what's cool about the protocol. You can take a 0 interest loan. This is so incredible in DeFi. Like, in traditional finance, you cannot do this. And there are several protocols, and currently this is one of the more successful ones, but it's still new. But there's several protocols that allow you to take interest-free loans. That's just phenomenal if you think about it. But with that being said, they've created a stable coin, ladies and gentlemen, a freaking stable coin. That is incredible to me. The USDL stablecoin, it could lose peg. It may not work out. I'm rooting for it. Crypto needs a true decentralized stablecoin. There's another project, Bean.money. Love this project. They are having some trouble right now. They were exploited a long time ago. They're trying to bring it back around, and they're very slowly continue to develop on it. Maybe something will happen, but it's a credit-based stablecoin. Again, it's all about being under collateralized. They're having trouble. Liquid Loans right now is proving to be significantly better with their ability to be able to manage stablecoin, to create a stablecoin. And we'll have to see what happens in a hard bear market, but I think it's going to work. Like it logically appears that it's going to work. Let me put it that way. It looks like it should work. We'll have to see what happens in a hard bear market. So I don't put everything in stablecoin. Monotron said, Robinhood does awesome for me to set $1 a day buys. Auto into Bitcoin, ETH, and S&P 500. Absolutely, Mtron. And then the key is not selling. That's the key. Not selling ever. Work with Mike. What's up? Work with Mike. How's it going? I guess we should all go work with Mike. Smash that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. We have 8 of us on stream. This guy's live streams means we are local top. Mark the words. We're the local top. Manoy, I guess you haven't been listening, or you would probably know that already. Wasn't DAI the first centralized? Yeah. So Monotron said, wasn't DAI the first decentralized stable token collateralized in ETH? Yes, but now a significant portion of DAI is collateralized by USDC. I forget, it's like 40 or 60% of DAI now, because there was an exploit in MakerDAO one time, and now a significant portion of DAI is collateralized with a centralized stablecoin, which doesn't make any freaking sense to me, unfortunately. So maybe USDL will pull it off. I don't know. Listen, this thing is paying out 90% APR. It will continue to go down, by the way. It may go down to 20%. It may go down to 40%, 30%, 50%. It will continue to tick down, but it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. The stablecoin aspect of this protocol to me is far, far, far better than the whole loan aspect to me. And I think the Walrus on YouTube, if you go look up Liquid Loans on YouTube, Walrus, the guy, I think he's the developer, one of the main developers. Anyway, he gets it. I've heard him talk several times about how excited he is about USDL, and I think that's what's freaking fascinating. And the great thing is there's Power City, there's just several protocols that are working on creating decentralized stable coins. And by the way, I'm going to go into 3 reasons why I think Bitcoin's going to go much, much higher here in a second. But let me just say this. Stable coins, I personally wish we didn't need them. Like, I personally wish that crypto was to the place where people just wanted to be in Bitcoin or Ethereum or their altcoins and no one cared about the dollar. But the truth is, a lot of people will hold stable coins because they want to basically secure profits. And I'm telling you that now, take profits, take profits. And historically, I've not done a great job of taking profits because I just keep buying more, keep buying more, keep buying more, and I don't sell my main positions almost ever. And even if I take a loss in a decentralized space, typically what I'll do, let's just say I put in $1,000 and I take a $600 hit and I think, I'm out of here. I'll take that last $300 instead of trying to put it into something else risky. I'll throw it into my cold wallet. Like that's sort of a way that I protect myself, if you will. Same thing. If I take profits on a big DeFi project and it blows up, and you all know, some of you have been around a while, $5,000, boom, I've turned into $20,000 like nothing. Some of these stablecoin projects, some of these DeFi projects. I mean, turn $1,000 into $3,000, $5,000 into $20,000. It's crazy what you can do sometimes. It's a little bit degen or whatever, but it freaking does happen in DeFi. And anytime that happens, I'll always take a part of that. And I'm going to buy Bitcoin. I'm going to buy Ethereum. No matter what, no matter where the price is at. It's almost like, for me, it's a little bit like my dollar cost average strategy overall. Now, let's talk about Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin going to go higher? And when I say higher, I mean higher indefinitely, eventually, meaning higher at some point in the future. I genuinely believe that with every fiber inside of me. I genuinely believe that. It's going to go higher. It's going to go a lot higher. So the reason that I believe it's going to go so much higher, first and foremost, is because it is becoming a digital gold. It is becoming a store of value. Period. So if you go look right now, let's see. Let's do this. Let's go to Google. Let's look up market cap of gold. Oh, that's not it. The market cap of gold is 13 trillion. 13 trillion. So we're at like 1.2 trillion now. So 13 times 1.2. Is that gonna do it? Times 1.2 trillion. We're at, hang on, where are we at? Oh, 13 times 1.2. Yeah, there we go. That would take us roughly to $15 trillion market cap. $15 trillion in just Bitcoin alone, if Bitcoin became a store of value, digital gold. That's 13 times, let's just say, let's do this. Clear. Let's just do 60 times 13. That's $780,000 Bitcoin. $780,000. That's where Bitcoin's going if it succeeds as digital gold. So here's a question. Well, I don't think it's going to be digital gold. Maybe it's not. What in the world is this? Sanders. Huh, that's funny. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. But let's compare it to gold. It's easier to transport. It's easier to divide. It's easier to store. It's easier to carry. It's expensive to store gold. If you invest in gold and you don't keep it at your house, then you're going to have to pay about a 4% fee to keep it stored. That's 4% fee just to keep it stored. You can keep $1 million in Bitcoin, $10 million in Bitcoin, and you're not paying a storage fee on nothing. On nothing. You just have to hold your private keys. That's it. You can transport Bitcoin. You can send Bitcoin digitally. You can't send gold digitally. You can't easily transport it at all. You got to pay a shipping fee if you're going to transport. Try to carry $10 million in gold into another country and see how well that goes. It's illegal. You can't transport it across, like you can't do that. That's crazy. Meaning you can't do it by hopping on a plane with a suitcase full of gold. You can't do that. We're not even trying to consider the expense of it. It's your gold, it's your wealth, it's your asset, and you cannot easily take it yourself across borders. But Bitcoin you can. Listen, you don't even, and I don't even have to agree that it's a version of digital gold. Michael Saylor agrees that it's a version of digital gold. He's literally buying it for that exact reason. He sees it as a digital store of value. Was it Bahrain? Is it Bahrain or Brunei? Bahrain. Bahrain has 5%, the country of Bahrain, tiny country, has put 5% of their central bank reserves in Bitcoin. Why? A store of value, an alternative store of value. That is freaking crazy if you think about it. And when I got into this space 16, 17 years ago, if you just said governments were going to start buying Bitcoin for a store of value, people would have laughed at you. But it's happening. There's another government. I just read an article somewhere else that some other small European country, just their central bank just started accumulating Bitcoin. I forget who it was, so I don't want to even try to say the name. But that would be 3 countries right now that publicly. Who else is potentially buying Bitcoin and we don't know it right now? Who else? And by the way, this is a bigger story than the ETFs. And the reason this is a bigger story is because ETFs are not, a lot of people look at the ETFs like they're some sort of a big hedge fund, and they're really not. ETFs are still consumer driven. A big hedge fund is a billionaire saying, hey, I want to invest in this because it's going to go somewhere. A big hedge fund is Kathy Wood, which ARK Investments. She's like, hey, we want to buy Bitcoin because we think it's going to go somewhere. She's predicting Bitcoin's going to go to $1.5 billion. That's not my prediction. That's hers. I hope she's right. But that's what she's predicting. And she's saying it's going to happen, I think, by 2035? That's crazy. That's an insane number. But that's what she's predicting. Michael Saylor says 1 million. Crypto Wealth says 1 million. It's going to at least hit 1 million, maybe 1.2 million. Now, is it digital gold? How could it be 1.2 million? Because the primary use case is more than a store of value. It's a currency. And a lot of people get this twisted. They're like, Bitcoin cannot be a currency. You can't buy a cup of coffee with it. Bitcoin itself does not have to be the actual transacting currency. It could still be. I mean, there's plenty of use cases already. It's already happened in Venezuela where the citizens are choosing to buy and make transactions in Bitcoin. The most traffic for localbitcoins.com for a long time was coming out of Venezuela. This is where you don't buy it online, but you buy Bitcoin with someone in a parking lot. You exchange cash for Bitcoin with someone in a parking lot or somewhere, so you make a physical transaction for it. People are buying it because they're worried about their own country's currency and how quickly it's getting devaluated or manipulated. So for me, that's proof enough to know that when times get bad enough, citizens will still opt for Bitcoin. But people get hung up on this. The throughput's not high enough for Bitcoin and all of this nonsense. No, but around the world, people are losing faith slowly. The trend is people are losing faith in government currencies. That is the trend. They're losing faith in each other's currency. People are losing faith in the US dollar. And people are losing faith in the Chinese yuan because they feel like it's getting manipulated. So in the event that countries say, hey, who else's currency do we want to use? I mean, I don't want to hold US dollars because they keep inflating it. So I want to look for some sort of alternative method similar to Michael Saylor's. I mean, that man, MicroStrategy is not a mining company. MicroStrategy has nothing to do with Bitcoin. But that man said we're holding cash. I think it's far better that we hold some portion of this in Bitcoin than just holding it in cash. If he can say that, there's no reason Tesla does the same thing or has done the same thing. There's no reason at all. There's no reason at all that countries can't start doing that. And then the question comes up, okay, well, we need to make certain that people have faith in our currency. We need to be able to transact with our currency across borders. We need other governments to be able to accept our currency to cover debts because maybe we don't want to keep using US dollars, for example. If we ever get to that place, and I think over a matter of time, we're trending in that direction. Will it take 5 years? Probably will take more than that. Will it take 10 years? I think it will take more than that. I think we're looking at a 25-year-ish time horizon where people start saying, hey, we need to look and dealing in something else outside of US dollars alone. And this is where the US government needs to get their act together if they want to maintain their leadership role in the financial world. By the way, we could debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing all day long. I think it's both good and bad. But with that being said, so how in the world do you restore faith to your currency? You make your currency backed by something that can't be manipulated. What is that backing? It can be, and it should be, Bitcoin. Limited supply, deflationary through use and loss, no longer available to print more, can't manipulate it. I mean, the American government literally prints money to pay off our debts. Mindertron is talking about bailing out the bailout to the banks. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when that bailout comes to an end at some point. Hopefully it turns out well. But the overall trend is positive for Bitcoin. It's not amazing for paper money that governments issue, but it is pretty good across the board for the future of Bitcoin. Let's look at this for a moment. Market cap. So how do you figure out how much how do you figure out if Bitcoin becomes money, or if Bitcoin backs money, how high could the price of Bitcoin go? One thing you can look at is you can look at to M2 money supply. M2 money supply is essentially how big is M2 money supply? Here we go. So the M2 money supply is essentially all liquid US dollars. Now this is just US, so let's keep that in mind. We're not talking about the euros. We're not talking about the yen, whatever other currencies countries have out there. It's impossible to know what the total market cap, or what is the total amount, if you could put a dollar value on the total amount of liquid, meaning easily to sell, something that's in like a savings bond or a CD, for example, or cash in your savings account, cash in your checking account, liquid. It's hard to know across the world in every country, every nation, what their liquid currency value would be. But in US dollars, just looking at US dollars, the US money supply is 20.8 trillion. $20.8 trillion, ladies and gentlemen. 20.8 trillion. So, and again, this isn't the world money supply. This is just the US money supply. Let's just say the world's money supply is 3 times that. Maybe it's double, maybe it's 40 trillion. But let's say it's 40 trillion. I don't even want to do the math, what 40 times 60 is. That's $2.4 million Bitcoin per Bitcoin. Put some inflation in there over time before we get to this point. The US dollar is going to have to get inflated. You'd be looking at $3 to $4 to $5 million Bitcoin if that were to happen. Now, I'm not telling you that's going to happen. That's not what I'm banking on. I don't know that I would ever see that in my lifetime. I don't even think we have to get to full mass adoption where Bitcoin is the backing of US dollars before we get to $1 million Bitcoin. Just include a little bit of inflation, and we're definitely going to get there. We're on track to, and if we don't hit $1 million Bitcoin, then we're going to hit 500,000. How do we not hit $500,000 in Bitcoin? Like, I personally, again, not financial advice, my very biased opinion. How do we not eventually hit $500,000 per Bitcoin? But with that being said, we're going to have some significant pullbacks along the way. We're going to have all the things. We're going to see 80% drops or 50% drops. And don't buy all the hype about, no, it's not going to happen because the ETFs are here. The ETFs are still driven by consumers at the end of the day. And that's a good thing in the fact that it gives consumers access to Bitcoin pricing. It's a bad thing because it's illegal for them to own the Bitcoin that are essentially purchasing through the ETF. But they get to at least watch the price, be aware of the price. Some of these people are going to be like, my ETF is doing good priced in Bitcoin. Maybe I should have some of my savings account in Bitcoin. Then they're going to learn how to buy Bitcoin. That's a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. Smash that like button if you agree with that. So number one, corporations are buying Bitcoin. That's going to lead towards mass adoption. They want it as a digital gold to store value. That's why Bitcoin's going higher. Number two, governments are buying it for their central banks. Again, it's another type of store of value. Number three is people want to have something else outside of paper money to be able to use and transact with. And in some cases, they're opting for Bitcoin over their own government currency, like in places like Venezuela, I think Argentina. Actually, there's something going on in Brazil. I don't know enough about, I don't know a lot about Brazilian politics, but I had a buddy of mine who was saying that something's going on in Brazil, and he has some friends asking about Bitcoin that are in Brazil. So I'm not certain of exactly what's going on there. But the number one thing that will lead to mass adoption and lead to the biggest price move of all time is when governments decide to back their currency or use Bitcoin as currency at some point in time in the future. That would be unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. No matter what happens over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, Keep reading up on this technology. Keep watching videos like this. Ask questions. Start thinking about, why was Bitcoin created in the first place? Why would someone be motivated to want to create this technology? And you start getting the answers to those questions, and it just blows your mind after a while at what's possible, what people were thinking. If you look at what Satoshi and them were thinking all the way back there before 2010, for someone to say, hey, we need some sort of digital currency that doesn't have to be collateralized, that people can trust. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We're sitting at 61,000, ladies and gentlemen. I'm headed out of here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Those of you in chat, Mtron, I appreciate you being here. Manajoy Shinoi, not certain where you're from or how to say your name. I apologize, but I appreciate you being here. Work with Mike, appreciate you being here. Jay, Tex, thank you so much for being here. The rest of you that are watching this later, do me a favor. Smash that like button. Let's get out of here. I've got some other great content coming for you. Stay tuned tomorrow. I believe that's when my next video is going to be coming up. You're not going to want to miss it. There's a project that I'm paying attention to. I'm really looking at real yield projects, things that are paying out a yield that doesn't involve them inflating their token, meaning they're not giving you some token out of air. They're not printing more of them. And there's a couple of projects out there that are doing some very interesting things. And I Google these projects. I go to YouTube and search. I'm not finding any videos at all on some of these projects. And other projects, I'm seeing that there's a video or two, but it was like a year ago or 18 months ago. And they've just recently, the project's kicked off and nobody's talking about it. And it blows my mind. I'm going to be talking about it right here on this channel. Stay tuned for more. Take care. This is Crypto Wealth. I'm out.